Insightful presentation. Dear colleagues, I have the honor to invite Professor Alexiei Dingli to join the panel discussion. He is an AI expert and from the University of Malta with over 20 years experience in the field and considerable peer-reviewed publications. He has helped numerous organizations implement AI solutions. He is a member of the Malta AI Task Force and working to position Malta as a global AI leader. Professor Dingli, it's our pleasure to welcome you today. The floor is yours. I do want to remind folks it's a 10-minute limit for speaking, and I know we could listen to you all day.
Chair, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends. Picture something that happened to many of us this very morning. You are rushing, coffee balanced in one hand, phone in the other, and face recognition refuses to unlock because the light is wrong. For a second, you are locked out of your own digital life. You sigh, juggle the cup, tilt your head, perhaps give up and key in the passcode. In that instant, you adapt yourself to a device that could just as easily have adapted to you. For most of us, the inconvenience is over in moments. For millions of people with disabilities, that silent negotiation with technology never ends. They are repeatedly asked to bend to technology. That would be far more humane if it learned to meet them at least halfway. Today, I invite you to set a new compass bearing. Imagine a future in which disability is not a challenge to be engineered away, but the most exact design brief a technologist could hope for, and the moral North Star by which artificial intelligence must navigate. When an interface works for a person who sees with their fingertips, or for a thinker who arranges ideas as images rather than words, it works more intuitively for everyone. Place disability at the starting line, and inclusion becomes the baseline. Excellence becomes an effortless byproduct. I repeat, by placing disability at the starting line, inclusion becomes the baseline. We stand on the verge of the AI era that will rewrite the social contract. Algorithms already recommend our news, steer our cars, and answer our children's homework questions. Within 5 years, so-called agentic AI systems capable of negotiating, scheduling, and problem-solving on our behalf will move from early novelty to daily companionship. The question is no longer whether this revolution will arrive, but who will be at the helm when it does. That is where the principle of disability sovereignty in AI comes in. Sovereignty means self-determination. It means that people with disabilities decide how the technologies that shape their lives are conceived, built, and governed. It demands representation at every table where power is exercised. The standards committees drafting technical protocols, the venture capital board approving budgets, and the parliamentary committees writing the rules. It insists on the rights not merely to be consulted but to lead. Anything less is a remix of digital paternalism. Why does this matter? Because business as usual is failing us. Consider a hiring algorithm that dismisses a candidate with autism because their eye contact looks unnatural to the machine, or a speech-to-text engine that mishandles a person's words because it was never trained on their stutter. Think of a driverless car whose sensors have barely ever seen a white cane and therefore cannot recognize one on the road. These are not hypothetical glitches. They are daily reminders that when experiences of people with disabilities are absent from the data and the design brief, discrimination becomes automated and scaled. How can we risk that discrimination becomes automated and scaled? Furthermore, exclusion carries a moral, economic, and ultimately existential price. The World Economic Forum predicts that AI will reshape the labor market by 2030, affecting roughly 90 million jobs. Yet, without bold intervention, the world will still be left with an 85 million person shortfall in skilled talent, a gap capable of stripping up to $8.5 trillion annually. Therefore, inclusive-centered AI is not a courtesy, but a global life support for all the economy. Professionals with disabilities, long pushed to the margins, constitute an immense, largely untapped reservoir of ingenuity, precisely because they have spent their lives reverse engineering environments never built for them. When technology becomes a bridge rather than a barrier, we unleash that ingenuity at scale, turning a looming labor famine into a renaissance of human potential. In doing so, we achieve more than justice. We tackle an economic crisis of historic proportions. What then does success look like? It looks like Tokyo's avatar robot Café, where servers with spinal cord injuries pilot robots from their homes, earning wages, chatting with customers, and finishing each shift with the same satisfied fatigue as any other barista. It looks like the testers at Fable Tech Labs, a remote research platform that pays people with disabilities to use AI-assisted tools to uncover accessibility flaws for top companies, turning lived experiences into billable expertise. And it looks like Auticon, the international IT consultancy that employs more than 600 consultants on the autism spectrum, matching them for software testing, data engineering, and cybersecurity projects. These consultants convert their pattern recognition strengths into premium code audits, proving that one sideline talent can become a competitive asset. None of these breakthroughs began with charity. Each started with a need, and ended with a competitive edge. To make such examples the rule rather than the exception, we must realign three pillars of the AI ecosystem. First, certification. An accessible AI seal should signal to investors, regulators, and consumers alike that a product must meet stringent accessibility and ethical benchmarking. Achieving the seal would unlock early regulatory clearance and priority placement in public procurement. A product bearing such a seal would automatically open the market to millions of new users, many of whom have historically been excluded by inaccessible design. Thus, compliance becomes a badge of quality and not a burden of proof. Second, capital. An accessibility accelerator seeded with a blend of public funds and venture capital can finance ideas too specialized for mainstream investors, yet too important to ignore. Tactile feedback wearables, low-vision coding tools, neural prosthetics that translate intention into motion. The accelerator's governing board must reserve seats for innovators with disabilities to ensure that money flows where it will matter most. Third, talent exchange. A reverse mentorship program pairs AI laboratories with technologists having a disability who serve as a strategic co-developer. These partnerships are grounded in commercial reality, revenue sharing, joint patents, and mutual accountability. Expertise flows from disability into the boardroom, flipping the old hierarchy on its head. Of course, none of these carries weight unless we confront the system's biases head-on. Mainstream AI magnifies the average users and treats everything else as a statistical noise. Disability-centered design reverses that logic. By looking at the edges, we stress test systems against the full range of human variance and make them sturdier for everyone. In the same way that curb cuts built for wheelchair users now guide parents with pushchairs, suitcases, and bicycles across the world's pavements. So where do we begin? Governments can mandate that no publicly funded AI projects proceeds without disability leadership at the design table. Universities can modify curricula so that accessibility engineering is a core requirement, not an elective. Corporations can tie executive bonuses to measure inclusion metrics. Civil society organizations can insist on open door sandboxes where users with disabilities hold part of the governance votes. None of these measures require a new miracle of science. They only require the will to share the power. Colleagues, the tide of AI is rising, whether we tie ourselves to the dock or set sail. The decision before us is whether people with disabilities will be passengers waving from the dock or sailors at the helm. Disability sovereignty in AI insists on the latter, not as a gesture of goodwill, but as the smartest, fairest, and ultimately most profitable course available to humanity. Cast your mind back to that split second of frustration where your phone refused to recognize you. If a minor glitch can stall one of us, imagine the drag on progress when every login, doorway, and digital system is calibrated for somebody else. Our task is to delete that friction for everyone, everywhere. The next artificial intelligence chapter will not be drafted in Silicon Valley. It will be co-written in classrooms, startups, ministries, and living rooms, wherever differences spark invention. Let us become the generation that tuned its machines to human diversity, and in doing so, unlock the full bandwidth of human potential. The choice is ours. The moment is now. Let us lead together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dingli, for your contributions. Ladies and gentlemen,